ande hawar ne ka ande da panza ande agozan za tsana ba ne da lala kamar ne mira smala da ande kamar da zana kala ande ne ruke
كل المناهج مال الدراسة يعني صارت مناهج مو زينة بنوبة.
Children in conflict zones have one thing in common. They are trapped in a reality they did nothing to create. Victims of man-made catastrophe. Too often, they have to abandon everything that made them feel safe. Their school, their home, even their family. They're forced to witness acts of violence and even to commit them. 20 years ago, the world said enough.
I have seen how concern for children in these situations can present new opportunities to confront the problems that cause their suffering.
In 1996, Grassa Michel presented her report on the impact of armed conflict on children. Her conclusions were devastating. Children were the main victims of war. The UN, she added, needed a strong voice with political clout to bring new tools, better coordination, and to achieve results. 4 months later, the General Assembly heeded her call by creating the mandate of the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict. This was a turning point.
For the first time, children affected by armed conflict have a space, have a voice to inform about their plight, to take action, to prevent what is happening to them. This decision was reinforced when the Security Council decided that this is also an issue that affects peace and security, international peace and security.
The new special representative would focus on the 6 most common violations affecting children in times of war: the recruitment and use of child soldiers, killing and maiming, sexual violence, abduction, attacks on schools and hospitals, and the denial of humanitarian access.
What could be more important than this mandate? No child should ever witness or suffer from the horrors of conflict. And yet 250 million children around the world are living in countries affected by conflict.
And to reach all of these boys and girls, the international community was determined to act. They created new tools, powerful enough to convince parties in conflict to take action, and squarely positioning the United Nations as a partner for positive change.
I don't
want to be a soldier, said David, on the day he was released from an armed group in South Sudan. Helping him, ending the ordeal of tens of thousands of child soldiers around the globe was the mandate's first goal.
We will try our best to provide you learning opportunities.
As a start, the Secretary General was asked to identify who was recruiting and using child soldiers. The parties identified were then asked to devise action plans and to work with the UN to turn the page and end this practice. Member states, the UN, civil society, and everyone who could make a difference was asked to contribute to these efforts. Action plans were signed, and to reach children in need, the UN increased its capacity to respond, including in its peacekeeping operations.
Over the years, we have developed a network of children protection advisors, and it is really a very central aspect of our mandates.
The new approach quickly showed its potential to protect boys and girls.
In
Myanmar, over 800 children like Miyoko have been released, in part because of an innovative approach, a hotline to report the presence of child soldiers in the army and advertised on billboards across the country. In Afghanistan, the child protection units set up in police recruitment centers around the country to prevent children from joining are one example of the government's commitment to its action plan.
We get regular updates, monthly updates on the number of rejected recruits, so it just shows that a system has been put in place and the government is actively trying to ensure that there are no underage recruits within the Afghan National Police.
In 2014, The campaign, Children, Not Soldiers, launched with UNICEF, accelerated the momentum and led to something that was unthinkable just a few years ago. A global agreement that children do not belong in armies in conflict and should be protected from all violations. In total, over 100,000 boys and girls have been released since the beginning of the mandate. Child soldiers have been relegated in the annals of history in Chad, Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Sierra Leone, and Uganda. This is indeed progress. Progress that will lead to additional gains as we continue to address the full scope of child suffering in times of war.
Sadly, my dream of great future was cut short when
sexual violence, killing, maiming, abduction, attacks on her school. These are some of the violations Grace Akalo suffered, witnessed, or was forced to inflict.
My answer is very simple. There is hope.
The international community knew that children would never be fully protected from war without robust action to end these violations. And so, over the years, the tools initially created to address the recruitment of child soldiers began to include violations of killing and maiming of children, sexual violence, abduction, and attacks on their schools and hospitals. That led to even more advances.
We today have a consensus that not only recruitment and use of children is not acceptable, but also killing and maiming and attacks on schools and hospitals. We are even going for a consensus to oppose the military use of schools.
Claudia Namse works in a clinic that provides assistance to survivors of sexual violence in the Central African Republic.
Most of
the cases they handle involve minors, she says, emphasizing how important it is to provide help in a country, like many others, struggling to assist child victims. When Modu Omar's school in northeast Nigeria closed because of Boko Haram's attacks in the area, he thought it would be the end of learning. In Nigeria, Syria, and in every country affected by conflict, protecting education and health care is vital. Despite the inspiring work done by colleagues around the world, every day, the unspeakable horrors children have to endure remind us of the immense tasks still ahead of us.
Children are the future not only of every nation, it's the future of the humanity. So unless we consider that what is happening to them is unacceptable and we include it in every and each initiative that we take, we will not achieve results.
The ways in which we choose to improve how we work collectively for these children will have a profound impact on the future of millions of boys and girls who deserve to grow up in prosperous, peaceful societies where they can thrive.